Buckle up, sports fanatics. This is the Sports Chasers Podcast, your HQ for in-depth sports talk. Join host Kevin L. Warren and crew as they dissect the hottest stories, ignite debates, and bring you closer to the action. From locker room whispers to expert takes, we cover it all. It's game time, so strap in and grab a drink. The Sports Chasers Podcast starts right now.
Hey, good morning to all. I hope everybody's having a great Monday as this interview is being taped on Monday. Before we start, I always, ask for a call to action. Make sure you like, click, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the bells for the notifications. And all my people on the podcast inside, if you're listening, driving, or at the house, make sure you give us that 5-star review. Love us or hate us. Hey, let us know what you think about the Sports Chasers, man. So today, we're doing the interview sessions again. And today we have a very good esteemed guest. We're going to talk about some health and nutrition and things to make you get right and within the realm of sports, right? Because most athletes, you got to be at your peak at your game, in order to perform right, man. So we're going to talk to our guests here, man. I think DA should be showing up shortly, but we're gonna still trudge on. But hey, let me introduce our guest here, man. He is. We're honored to welcome a man who's turned personal struggle into lifelong purpose, Dr. Derek Alessi, also known as Dr. Derek, from battling teenage obesity to becoming one of America's top health advocates. Dr. Derek has spent over 3 decades on empowering people to take control of their lives through practical fitness, supportive nutrition, and mindset transformation. He's been featured nationwide, authored best-selling books, and is the founder of Strength Genesis, pioneer of the future of sustainable wellness. Chasers family, let's welcome Dr. Derek to the show. Let's give him a round of applause.
Hey, Kevin, how you doing? Nice to
I'm good, sir, man. We were supposed to do this last week, but like I said, we had bit of emergency, but we're here this week, man, and I'm excited to talk to Dr. Derek here, man. So, Doc, how's it going? And let's just go right to it. You had some challenges when you was a teenager, and you talked about it in your bio about around 17, 18. What made you change your life into the road of fitness?
Yeah, no, and I appreciate the question. And first, even before I jump into it, I want to tell you, I'm very impressed with your intro. Wow, that was exciting. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of video. I love it. Action-packed. Kudos to you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it, man. We try to make our people feel welcome, man. And I had some more, but I think that was just good enough, man. So
that was great. No, and I appreciate the question. So, growing up, I wasn't exactly the epitome of health. Now, just to give you a little idea, both of my parents on both sides of the family are from Italy.
Okay.
So I grew up with a lot of Italian cooking, delicious home cooking, but as you can imagine, a lot of pasta, a lot of Italian delicacies. I was an overfed Italian boy, just so you know. So growing up, I was very heavy. I remember wearing my father's clothes to my 8th grade dance. Right. So I was already in a size 36 waist in 8th grade, but I beat that number. I got up to a size 44-inch waist pants when I was a senior in high school, and I was about 240 plus or so pounds too. So yes, I had some delicious foods growing up, but no, I was not physically fit. I was not athletic. I was the furthest thing from sports and so on and so forth at that point. So it didn't make any logical sense that I was going to be an exercise scientist, a nutritionist, any of those things at all, because I had very difficult beginnings when it came to fitness.
Wow. So Italian. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I think me and you talked about this. So you had a lot of cannolis growing up there.
Oh my goodness. I could write a book on cannoli by itself. Cannoli was just one of the things. The cannoli, the pizzelle, the giuggiolini, the cucciardati, all of those. And if you like anything about Italian sweets, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, 100%. So
delicious, but it didn't like me.
All right, so you turn it around, and like you said, you was wearing your father's clothes. So there's something to think about that, with the fact that you know at that age, and he was like, man, I got to do something about this. I got to do something about it. And so you did something about it. So tell me what else, how this journey goes for you.
Yeah, the story continues. So it makes total sense, Kevin. So instead of deciding to do something about it, it's better than that. I decided that I wanted to be a dentist. I wanted to go to dental school. Now you might be thinking, what does going to dental school have to do with any of it? And the answer is this: it was the late 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
And in undergrad, before I went to dental school, I had to take some prerequisites for some classes. And one of them was a pretty new field called exercise science. It's not new anymore, but in 1989, as you can imagine, not even every college offered it. So I had to take some prerequisites. And Kevin, I had no idea exercise was a science. I figured if you exercise, you were maybe running, you were jogging, you're doing aerobics, people lifted weights. I get it. But I didn't know there was a science behind it until I started taking these classes. And that's where I got interested, because it showed me not only did I need to learn these classes, but there was a science behind it, and I could do something for myself, which I never even considered doing up until that point. So I got involved in exercise science, and I thought, what if I start lifting weights? What if I start doing some of these things I'm learning about? What if I started it because I so desperately needed it, doing these things for myself? And that was my beginning.
Wow, that's pretty impressive what you said about that. So you got that going, and so what about diet within that? So, most of the time, most of the doctors say, "Hey, man, you're going to work out. You got to have your diet got to be kind of disciplined too."
Yeah, no, and also too, just to follow that one step further, Kevin, between you and I never became a dentist. Just so you know, I never went to dental school, which, by the way, broke my mother's heart. She thought I was going to be a dentist. And she said, "You're going to be a dentist. Now you're going to be a gym teacher." And I said, "No, Mom, I'm going to be an exercise scientist." And she said, "You're just making that up. That's not a thing." And I said, "No, it really is a thing. It's a real thing." So I got further and further into exercise science, started lifting weights, started transforming my body. Now, for me, nutrition initially was nothing more than what I called trying to eat clean. And let me define that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anything about nutrition. This was 1989. I knew nothing. I didn't take any classes in nutrition. I wasn't a nutritionist yet. And even the field of nutrition is completely different than it is now. Remember, back in the 1980s, everybody was talking about eating like low fat, no fat diets, low sodium, heart healthy diets, where nobody recommends that anymore because it's just not good information. So what I was doing at the time is I just wanted to do a pact with myself and say, I'm just going to avoid junk food. So I'm going to avoid candy, cookies, soda pop, pizza, that kind of thing, and lift weights, and let's see what happens. And the answer is, within about a year to a year and a half, I lost 85 pounds, which was great. And I also went on the stage of a bodybuilding contest.
Yep.
Within about a year and a half. So rapid transformation. Now, what I did have going for me is the fact that at the time I was a young guy,
right,
and men can build muscle quickly and men can burn through fat quickly, especially when you're younger. So I had a lot of metabolism working for me, which was great. So my body changed, got on the stage of the bodybuilding contest. And Kevin, to tell you how well I didn't do well in the contest. In fact, I couldn't wait till it was over when I was on the stage. I don't know if you've ever been on the stage of a bodybuilding show.
I've been to a bodybuilding show, but never been on the stage. No.
You haven't been on stage. Well, there's something very humbling about waxing your body. Remember, I'm an Italian guy. So waxing my body, removing all the hair from my body was like a full-time job. Right? So I had to do that. I had to tan, and I had to wear these posing briefs. You might call them like a Speedo.
Yeah.
On stage. And it just, I was going to be a dentist. What kind of dentist do you see walking on stage all lathered up and wearing a Speedo? Right. So I knew at that point, Kevin, it wasn't for me. I knew that wasn't what I was going to keep following, but I did like the training, and I did like what I was learning about how the body changes. And I wanted to learn more about nutrition.
Okay. So you didn't win. What place did you come in? I'm curious.
Well, they only gave awards for the top 5, and I wasn't one of them. So I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. No idea.
So you talked about so we fast forward, you're in your career, you're doing this. And you often, and I was reading, you talk about reducing medication dependence. Can you share a story where lifestyle can help someone ditch the pills and reclaim their health?
Yeah. So
There's so many health things, diabetes, high blood pressure. We can go on, but go ahead.
we could go on and on. Yeah. So that was just the intro. So now we're going to fast forward 30 years later. 30 years later, yes, I have a PhD in exercise science. I have a master's degree in nutrition. And I've been practicing clinically for 30 years in my own business. So yes, I have worked with a lot of clients. So initially starting off, I worked with a lot of athletes. So that was very early on in my career. And I worked with a lot of professional athletes, professional hockey especially. So I'm in Buffalo, New York, as we just mentioned, the New York State connection.
Mhm.
And in the early 1990s, I trained the owners of the NHL hockey team, the Buffalo Sabres. And then they didn't even have a strength and conditioning coach at the time. So I worked with a lot of players independently at that point. And also, in addition to the Buffalo Sabres, hockey is very popular in upstate New York. We border Canada, and there's a lot of kids, there's a lot of youth in high school and college that play hockey. So a lot of hockey background, but that's not it. I also worked with professional boxers, Indianapolis race car drivers, professional football players. So that was early on in my career. Now we, of course, look at later on, and you're mentioning medication. Regarding medication, yes, I have helped people reduce or eliminate many medications in no particular order. Number one would be anything diabetes related. So that's probably one of the easier ones to reduce, if not eliminate, just by changing the diet. So a lot of Americans have a high carbohydrate, high sugar diet. Heck, I did going into this whole thing.
Correct.
However, in the process of doing so, of course, it's no favor to your body. Your body can become insulin insensitive. It can become diabetic. The pancreas is overworking. And instead of just taking more and more medication and being medicated by the drug companies, if you change your nutrition, change your lifestyle, you could reduce, if not eliminate medication. And to give you a direct story to that, yes, I worked with a person that was a 20-year diabetic, insulin dependent diabetic, who within about a year to a year and a half, completely off all medications.
Wow.
That's so dramatic.
Amazing. What are some of the things that you did with that person?
So when you look at somebody's nutrition, sometimes it's very apparent, sometimes it's not. So instance, if you're breaking down somebody's nutrition and they have a lot of things in there like candy, cookies, soda pop, ice cream, alcohols, those are pretty straightforward. Everybody would say, yes, get rid of those and they will use insulin better. They'll manage it better, manage blood sugar better. But how about some of the hidden things that you might not realize as quickly, such as things like grains, wheat bread, brown rice, white rice, potatoes. Some of those things can sneak in there. How about also things that disguise themselves? It's a yogurt, but it's a low-fat yogurt, which means it's high in sugar, and then they add a sugar to it on top of it. Things like that can be very hidden and misleading, but if you're wearing a glucose monitor, you can clearly see the change in your blood sugar level. Right. So breaking all of that apart, cleaning out the diet, and then going, so we talked about what we want to get rid of. Now, what do we want to add to it? We want to eat protein, so chicken, fish, turkey, beef, pork, eggs. We, of course, are going to have carbs, but we want to be smart about it. We want to have more vegetable-based carbs and less grain or sugar-based carbs. And we do want to increase good fats in the body. Now, there's a big discussion. We probably could talk about good fats by itself, but fat isn't bad. There are good fats, there are bad fats, and the body needs it to produce hormones and for brain health. So once you change that in somebody's diet, it's surprising how their whole endocrine system, especially their pancreas, will start working better, and we could reduce and eliminate the medication.
Gotcha. Wow, that's the whole thing about diabetes and getting well. DA, good morning, sir.
Hey, guys, I apologize. You know how, I'm sure you guys understand how things go at, people talking in meetings a little bit too long sometimes. So I was trying to get out of one, but couldn't get out of one, and now I'm here. So apologies again, gentlemen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We were just talking about with Dr. Derek here about, he was talking about his fitness journey. So he started out, he was 18 years old. He said things just wasn't working right, man. He said he had to make a change in his life, and he did. And 30 years later for it, he's helping people getting right. when it comes to fitness and nutrition, man. So
I clap my hands to you. I thank you for all of us that are working on the journey. I was there. I got no excuses. That's the one thing you can't do is make excuses, right? So weak in certain areas, especially diet. It's kind of hard when you're married, but that's not it's not an excuse, right? It is what it is, and I am working now and losing weight and working out as much as I possibly can. But I believe food is probably the most important part of that journey, per se. Like I know guys that, I mean, I worked out for years. I was looking like Hulk Hogan. I got in a car accident and whatever. Right? Like I said, no excuses. So, but the reality is that for the most part, it's what you put in your mouth, man, and when you put it in your mouth. So, I think at the highest level, Dr. Alessi, is that Alessi or Alessi?
Alessi.
Alessi. I think at the highest level, it's funny because people don't think about it this way, but at the highest level, they have people that do that for you. Actually, at the next highest level, right? So my son went to go play ball at UNC football. Man, when they were recruiting him, we went into the cafeteria, and all these behemoths, they couldn't eat without a card, and they would give the card in, and they would tell you exactly what you were going to eat, and they would make sure that you had carbs, this much protein, depending on the position you played and what their goal was for you and your diet. And I think professional athletes have the same, but where things get a little convoluted is that us regular folks, right? And the internet and all of the, hey, you do this and you get that. There's just so many messages bombarding folks. I just don't know if people actually know what's the right way and who to go to. And especially in this time when not everyone has insurance, not everybody can go to a nutritionist. Not everyone can go here. Not everyone can go there. Like, what can people do? And I'm sorry to come out of the blue with a question. I apologize to both of you gentlemen. And Kevin knows we do these interviews all the time. So what can someone do that, doesn't have insurance, wants to do the right thing, trying to do the right thing, but and plus we all know that it's probably more expensive to eat healthy than not eat healthy, right? So what can you do? And this is not just for athletics, but, everyone. So I'm sorry, and that's my question. Apologies, because I've been thinking about this question for a little while. So thank you.
Yeah, no, in fact, first and foremost, DA, I want to tell you, we share the same initials. So, I do like the initials DA. That's great. It's good. Yeah, no, I love it too. To answer your question directly, and I do like what you're saying. There's no excuses. You do have to take ownership. So if somebody said to me, what are the first things that you need, even before you talk food strategy, even before you talk exercise strategy, what do you need? Two things. Number one is, you might say no excuses, but I would also say just take ownership that the choices are yours. You make the decision. You make the call. Whether you're younger and you're an athlete and you're trying to get better, whether you're older and married and have other conflicts, you make the decision. This is your body. This is your life. You make the call on what you put in your mouth. That's number one. Number two is believe that you can do well. A lot of people shoot themselves in the foot because they say, no, that's too hard. I can't do that. They're selling themselves short. They would be shocked at what you really could do. So don't ever think you can't do well. You must think you could do well. Otherwise, there really isn't much hope. So believe that you can after you take ownership of it. Now, to answer the question that you just asked me, here's the simplest thing. So let's say that money was a problem. Let's say that knowledge was a problem. Let's say that know-how was a problem. Where can you start? Well, luckily, we have a whole history. See, humans have been in existence for the last 2.7 million years. 2.7 million years of human evolution. Now, for the majority of it, for over 99% of it, we had two choices. You could fish or hunt. That was it. You could fish or hunt. And you better be pretty good at it. Otherwise, you're not eating. So you had to fish or hunt. It wasn't until much later did we get into agriculture and cultivating different crops for different reasons. And most of it was either to feed other livestock or to intentionally get fatter during times of starvation. So what I would say is this: we don't have to go back 2.7 million years. For most people, if we went back to the time of your grandparents, if we just cut out the last 80 years, in the last 80 years in the United States, food has taken a turn for the worst. But if you were to go back to see how your grandparents or great grandparents ate, that is still going to work for everyone. They were eating protein. In fact, many of them may have been on farms or processing their own food. They had gardens. Many of them, because they didn't have money, had to raise their own vegetables. They had a garden. They had a vegetable garden. That's how they ate. Those two things alone. Now, did they have sweets? Did they have grains? Did they have breads? They did, but they didn't have it like we're doing now. It wasn't all the time. It wasn't this nonstop consumption of high carbs, high fructose, high sugar, high all of those things. They were having protein and vegetables. So if you go back to how they ate, oh, and by the way, they used butter, they used lard, they used 10 times more salt than you could ever imagine. No one had blood pressure problems because there was no obesity. And everybody was pretty healthy. In fact, most of them outlived what we're living now, and they smoked and they outlived us. That goes to show you that the diet is even more important than even tobacco consumption. And tobacco is not good for you, but having a bad diet is worse. So go back to how your grandparents, great grandparents ate, and that's pretty much a blueprint for anyone.
So and I agree with you there. So vegetables, protein, good proteins. Well, there's no such thing as really bad proteins, but everything outside of the vegetables, the bread, the cookies, cake, snacks, chips, this, that, and the third, cereal, right, are all horribly bad for you because they're preserved products, right? Anything that needs to be preserved is just not good, right? Those are things you shouldn't be having, right? Because they need to be preserved. And that's not sodium preserved meats. So that's not necessarily bad, as you stated, but it's everything else around it. So if you stayed on that track, you're saying you should be at least starting in the right direction before you start walking 8 miles a day or whatever else you try to do from a physical perspective. Just the protein, eating like your grandparents or great grandparents would probably be better. And that's even like for great grandparents that lived in the city as opposed to living in the farm. They just got better food and they shopped differently and bought food differently kind of for that night rather than, kind of European as opposed to going to BJ's and buying 18 pounds of something or another, which I don't do anymore because my kids aren't here. So it's kind of easy for my wife and I just to do us and, get smaller amounts of food. But okay, great. And I hope everyone takes this to heart when we, put this out, because I think that advice is like really good. So I'm working on it, sir. I am getting there. Believe me, because if I can do good, if I can do bad, then I can do good. So if I swear I kind of believe things to be. So if I can do bad, then I can do good.
Then you can do good. And you had a lot of really good points too. You're describing something called the metropolitan effect. So oftentimes when you live in a big city, you said European, which they do too. You live in a big city, you only could really carry as much food as you can have for that day or two. Whereas now, you're right, we take our SUVs, we drive to big lot stores, we drive to the superstores, and we put 20 bags of stuff in the car, which have a shelf life of like 5 years, 10 years. So yes, you're hitting a lot of good principles. Once again, how would great grandparents, and some people will jump up and say, my great grandmother always made this delicious apple pie. She always made this Italian delicacy, as I was explaining earlier. My parents on both sides come from Italy. Yes, they did. However, it was a treat. We weren't having it every day. That happened much later. My grandparents and great grandparents didn't eat the way I did growing up, so they didn't have the problems that I did growing up. So a lot did change in the last 80 years in the United States. So I could completely agree with what you just said.
I think also too, Doc, if we be in 2025, a lot of us, well, maybe not a lot of us, we're not moving as much either.
Yeah, completely. So not only should we eat the way we did 80 years ago or so, but keep in mind, it was a different life, right? Many didn't have cars. We worked manual jobs. All of the, we didn't have remote controls. We didn't have automatic tellers at the bank. We didn't have these things. We had to do things. We were much more manual than ever before. Now, we could make up for that if we had some type of organized and scheduled exercise program, which of course would be very smart to do, because all we're really doing is replicating what we used to do manually anyway. So I am a big fan of bridging the two together. Yes, one part is nutrition. The other part is what are we going to do for our physical fitness?
Wow, that's a good point. I'll share a story with you. Probably about two and a half years ago, I went to Greece, stayed there for almost 2 weeks, and everywhere you had to walk. You had to walk, and I guess first time for me being in Europe. They said the food was different. It definitely was different. It just tasted different, and I guess they don't put all these stuff out like how the United States puts all their preservatives and all their things in their food. And when I came back, I had lost weight. I had lost a bunch of weight, man. They say, hey, wait, did you really go on vacation? So to your point, man, walking around and what people used to do 80 years ago, my father tells me all the time. He grew up on a farm in eastern North Carolina, man. He said we had to go out and get our food in the garden and stuff like that, and grow and I was like, well, Dad, I'm going to Pathmark. We don't have to do that no more. But as you could say, those times, I guess, for a health consumption wise, it was just better. So you make a lot of good points, Doc.
I think that and also, like I was, I do project management. So I was in London a few years back, man. And when I first realized that there were things that are consumed or shipped in America that they don't eat, like they won't allow, not that they won't eat, that they won't even allow this stuff there. A lot of colors, like the ketchup tastes different. Like a lot of things are really different. But also when you go back to like when me and Kevin first met and we started working together in the 90s, even though we were in New York, which is a city, because I could tell when I moved down to Charlotte that we walked a lot in New York. Like we walked a lot in New York. Like we would, and we walked fast. Because the first time that you go back to New York as a Charlottean or living here, everybody's just passing you by. You're wondering why. You're like, what the heck? I'm working out now. I'm doing this. Why is everybody walking faster than I am? Because that's just the tick or the heartbeat of the city. If that's just the way people move there. And that also, I know it impacted me because when I got down south, you drove everywhere. Like you couldn't even walk to the store. I hated it. Like I couldn't walk from my subdivision to a grocery store. And in New York, I could just walk out my apartment and go up the block to the store and get some, I don't know, some turkey meat or some cheese or something to make some sandwiches. Couldn't do that. You had to get in the car. It was a whole thing, right? You go to the supermarket, buy some meat. That's, mile, 2 miles away. And it just takes so much away from you that I think you really have to get in the gym or something. But again, as you stated, sir, I will go back to your point. What you put in your mouth is probably most important to start this off with.
Yeah, we definitely live at a different pace than ever before. We could do less and get by doing less, but are we really benefiting ourselves? And the answer is, of course not. If you were to ask me what the fountain of youth is, it's the same thing that burns calories, and that is your muscle tissue. So the reason why we burn fewer calories, the reason why we get weaker, the reason why our bones and joints and tendons and ligaments become brittle, the reason why we can't move as well, can't go up a flight of stairs, can't get off the floor, is because we lose muscle tissue with age, unless we're actively trying to regenerate it and repair it, which most people are not. So yes, years ago, they always kept working their muscle tissue because it was a very manual society. Now you would have to purposefully do that by making sure that you're getting the training in. So I do highly recommend, for your balance, for your metabolism, to prevent falls, to have coordination, to be able to do things, to be able to go on vacation and enjoy it and move and not just sit in a chair all day, you need muscle tissue to do it. Separately than that, what you put in your mouth, as you just said, is ultra important, and you have the control over that to pick and choose what foods you're going to eat. Otherwise, somebody's going to pick it for you, and it's not going to be helpful.
Yeah, That's a definitely good point. Yeah. I was going to ask about the foods and the dyes and stuff like that. Your opinion or anything. Um, well, I know why they do it. Like you said, DA said the preservatives, but I saw something on TV a couple weeks ago how they said, and Fruit Loops is probably a bad example, but they were saying that the Fruit Loops with the no color in it tasted better and was more nutritional than the one they had in the US where they added the color or whatever things they did to it, and it was even more harmful. Can you bring some thoughts to that?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, when it comes to breakfast cereal, I think it's an amazing invention in marketing. If you think about it,
Right.
you're getting a box, you're getting a relatively big box full of nothing but sugar, cellulose, which is wood pulp, and different dyes and colors. They probably have a good 7-8 cents of material in there. The box costs more than the ingredients because they're printing a nice box. So call it another 20 cents in box. So something that's about 27 cents that they're selling for $10. Amazing. I mean, you got to appreciate it from just a marketing standpoint. And it doesn't stop there. They really try to appeal to kids. They try to appeal to people that are on the move and they're looking for convenience, people that don't want to spend the time having traditional foods. So there's a lot of marketing behind it. Genius, though. Now, what's inside the boxes? You're asking me, the answer is nothing. It's garbage. It's utter garbage. It's nothing but fillers. It's nothing but sugar. In fact, if they use sugar, it would be more nutritious. They're using high fructose corn syrup, which DA, as you mentioned, they don't have high fructose corn syrup in Europe. That is something you do not allow in Europe. No corn at all, let alone high fructose corn syrup.
Wow.
So yeah, that's the thing.
We're DA, Dr. DA. The weird thing is that I used to love cornflakes as a kid, right? But we didn't eat cornflakes, right? Because we ate a real breakfast every morning, like hot breakfast every morning, right? Whether it was oatmeal, steel cut oats, and it was weird because back in the days you had to start that stuff. My grandmother started it the night before. Like steel cut, you had real steel cut oatmeal. You had to start like the night before you ate them.
Right.
So she would start the pot like the night before we get up and eat it in the morning. But as an adult, I looked at the ingredients for cornflakes, which I thought was, I'm telling other folks, you guys are eating that sugary stuff and frosted flakes, and that just as bad, just as bad. And it broke my heart, man, to see that. So I stopped eating that some years ago. But what I wanted to chime in on, and it's something you said, it just happened to me, man. So I got my left knee replaced, right, and they wanted to replace my right knee as well. They're both bone on bone. So I started going back to the gym about maybe 5 months ago. When I started going back, I started going heavy. Like I'm doing leg presses. I'm like my leg routine was almost an hour and a half, right? And everybody thought my knee would hurt more, my right knee that needed to have surgery. It stopped hurting. And I was like, that what you just said, and it clicked on, like, the muscles, why it stopped hurting. Like building the muscles around the knee, leg presses, extensions, leg curls, squats, sissy squats, all that stuff helped start to rebuild what was around the actual knee. And then like my right knee wasn't hurting anymore. And I was like, I could have, just did this before, but it was just the getting back in the gym because, the psychological, your knees hurt, right? Your knees hurt, your bone on bone, but your body will, a smoker told me this years ago, your body will repair itself for every day that you don't do wrong. So if you stop smoking every day that you're not smoking, your lungs will repair because that's what the body does. That's just kind of what the cells, that's what they're meant to do naturally. That's what, like, you can't kill them. Like they will come back if you stop. It may take a little time. It may do this, it may do that, but but as long as you're doing wrong, you're going to damage yourself, right? So if you're not doing it, then you'll heal. So I learned, and even if I can't get to the gym, I just do air squats as many as I can over the course of a day. Just do sets of whatever, like sets of 20 all day long, as much as you can, because it will help you. And squats do something else for your body too, and I'm sure the doctor could tell you they, you release a lot of different, what the heck are those things called in your body? Not hormones, but
Endorphins.
Endorphins in your body just from squats. Like squats, I think they're called the ultimate exercise because back to what the doctor said, back in the days, you had to pick things up. And anytime you pick things up, you use leg as a squat. So you release a whole lot. I tell dudes, just do squats. Now, if you ain't gonna do nothing else in the gym, you ain't gotta do no presses, you ain't gotta do nothing else. You can do some back, because back is a big muscle group, but squats usually will do a lot for you if you're doing them, and even if they're air squats. So yeah, so I do thank you. So you kind of let me know at least I'm in the right direction with the leg day, though I hate leg day. So though I hate it, it is for sure.
It's a thing, right? So
yeah.
So let's try to tie two principles in together. When you eat cornflakes, it can also lead to inflammation, which makes your knees feel worse. Right. So if you've ever worn a glucose monitor, nowadays people wear what's called CGMs, which are continuous glucose monitors, and you have something like cornflakes, any kind of corn, your blood sugar will go up a lot, 150 points or more in the next 20 minutes or so. So it shoots way up, and then the body releases insulin to get that sugar back down again so it doesn't ruin your blood vessels in your organs. Now, insulin, though, leads to a lot of inflammation of the joints. So even food can hurt the joints. So now we have a couple things going on. We were talking about the corn. We were talking about the high fructose corn syrup, the corn flakes, the cereal, the additives that are in there, Kevin, the food colorings and dyes, the preservatives. They want it to be shelf stable for 5-6 years or so. All of those things come together and it makes the body feel awful. So we're losing muscle. We're eating poorly. Our insulin levels are sky high. We have preservatives, we have food colorings, we have dyes going in, we have a different lifestyle, we can't move as well, and then we start succumbing to the whole medication trap that unfortunately healthcare has led us to right now. You might blame the pharmaceutical companies, you may blame the American Medical Association, heck, a lot of people just also blame their doctor. I think blame can go around pretty well with all of those groups, but nonetheless, it won't help you, which essentially is what we're talking about today, is improving you.
How do we change that? I was going to ask a question, but how do we change this vicious cycle of this? It was probably going to be a latter question to me, but it looks like this proverbial chasing your tail.
Well, it starts with what we talked about when DA jumped on, and that is taking ownership of it. So even doing what I do, even being in the field as long as I have, and over time, I've written 11 different books. I have my PhD in exercise science, master's degree in nutrition, and I own a food supplement company called Strength Genesis. So I've been in the game for a really long time. What I would tell anybody is do not worry about anybody other than yourself. I can't change society. There's many power players involved. And we mentioned a couple: American Medical Association, pharmaceutical companies, big government, big food. I can't change them. I can't possibly change them, but I can change myself. I could choose to make myself a priority. I could choose to exercise properly and consistently. I could choose what foods I put in my body, picking better choices so that I can improve the quality of my life. So my goal would be to encourage other individuals to improve the quality of their life by taking ownership of it. Look, this is the only body you're going to get this time around. I can't go to Sam's Club or Big Lots or any place and buy a new body, at least not yet. So I have to take care of, even if I've harmed it. DA mentioned a good thing about smoking. Yes, the body does want to repair. The body's smart. See, I would tell every individual, your body's infinitely smart. It's the minds of men that aren't as smart. We get in our own way. So allow the body to do itself. Do everything properly, take ownership of it, and believe that you're going to do well with it. And you are 95% down the road already.
And I see you guys have salad dressing. So I'll be looking at, I just went in there and you got the ones I eat. So that's good. I can do that. See, there are a lot that I don't eat, but yeah.
I want to mention that too. So Kevin, you asked me about preservatives.
Yeah.
So that salad dressing that you just took a look at on the website at Strength Genesis, that's called Origin Keto Mediterranean Salad Dressing. That is currently the only salad dressing you could find anywhere where you do not need to refrigerate after opening. No need to refrigerate. So people ask me, well, that doesn't make sense. Why do you have to refrigerate salad dressing? The answer is simple. Because they're putting in preservatives and bad fats like soybean oil and canola oil, and a lot of preservatives that once you open them up, they oxidize once air hits it. So you have to keep it in the fridge to keep it from going bad. Now, Origin with our keto salad dressing not only will help you lose weight and drop body fat, but you can put it right on the counter or cupboard when you're done because it's made with 100% extra virgin olive oil. Nothing else. There's no canola. There's no cutting that olive oil. There's no putting cheaper oils in it. It's made with 100% EVOO. Yes, from Italy, to give you the right profile of good fatty acids in your body.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool, Doc.
It's on Amazon, everyone. Go get it.
Gotcha. Let me go to this next thing I want to talk about here. About testing sleep. We was talking about sleeping and those things. How is that important in your overall health, in your health for a person?
Sleep is integral on so many different levels. I think first and foremost, it's not that Americans don't try to get sleep. Most do. So it's not that we're so ignorant thinking we don't know that sleep is important. I think most adults do understand the importance of sleep. The problem is when they go to bed, they have lousy sleep. Their sleep efficiency ratio or sleep quality scores are poor. Now, luckily, we have a lot of ways to measure it. If you have a Fitbit, if you have a Garmin, if you have an Apple Watch, in fact, some of the now Sleep Number beds have it built in.
Yes.
You can measure your quality score. And the goal isn't how many minutes you could be on a mattress. The goal is how many minutes you could be in deep sleep. So deep sleep is the key. And the reason why is when you're in deep sleep, inside your inner brain, you release a hormone called human growth hormone. That human growth hormone helps your body rebuild and repair. It strengthens your muscles and your heart, but also it strengthens and helps clean your brain. So it prevents against dementia and Alzheimer's, but it also in the here and now helps you make better decisions. See, the prefrontal lobe is where decision makings occur. And when that's fully charged from being in deep sleep, the next day we tend to make better decisions. That's why you don't want an airline pilot or a race car driver or anybody operating too long without enough deep sleep. So we give these scheduled breaks because that's where decision making is. You could also replicate it yourself by getting more quality deep sleep, which will help you make better nutritional choices as well as career choices and life choices along the way.
So the key is to making sure you get not just sleep, but you get quality sleep. And folks, if you got an Apple, whatever, Fitbit, I've had both. They'll absolutely track your sleep, and you can do this. You can do the study, and you can show it to the doc here, and see if you're getting good sleep. Because I know sometimes, when you don't get good sleep, you wake up, feel like you've never gotten, sleep, or you wake up with headaches and stuff like that. And that's probably other stuff that's going on with you. What about ketones? You monitor that. What does that do for people when you monitor ketones?
Well, yeah, when you're monitoring ketones, what you're trying to do is trying to see if you're in a fat burning state. So the whole keto diet or ketones is we're trying to get the sugar out of the liver so that your body's not using sugar for energy, it's burning your fat for energy. So that is what most people that are looking to drop body fat. So a lot of people, Kevin, will say to me, hey, and they'll grab their midsection. How do I burn this? How do I lose this? How do I burn 40 pounds of fat? How do I burn 60 pounds of fat? Well, you got to get into a state of fat burning, which is what ketosis is. And you'll never be in ketosis if you keep eating a lot of high glycemic or high sugar carbs and or simple sugars. We need to go at least 10 to 15 days without resupplying your liver with sugar so that your body will use fat for energy, which are those ketones, as opposed to burning sugar. So ketosis or ketones is the process of burning fat for energy, which is ultimately what many people are trying to do.
Okay, so ketosis, and I'm glad I'm sorry, got called away really quick. And I'm kind of doing something now that you may frown upon regarding ketosis, right? So I got some folks I work out with that did, let's say, some other jobs for our government in life, and they would say, D, listen, man, that whole 3 meals a day thing is a joke. That's not real. That's marketing. All you need to do is eat one meal a day. And in 17 hours from eating that meal, you will go into ketosis every day, right? Even without working out. At 17 hours, you will hit ketosis. And then, at the 24th hour, you eat your next meal. As long as you're counting your hours, it's not so much this whole thing about fasting, right? It's just what people did back before there were TVs and, eat three square meals a day, so forth and so on. So I've done it, and I've lost weight. And the reality is I still actually have the energy to work out, which I thought would be weird, right? Because I wasn't really eating anything. So it might be mind over matter right now. I'm not sure. I'll let you tell me if I get in there and I pick up a weight and it's going to crash down on me at some point in time. You can tell me, AD, get a sandwich, or, exactly what exactly is that process, and how do people get to ketosis through diet and so forth and so on. So
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and there's more than one way to get into ketosis. So if you were to ask me, is eating one meal a day good? And the answer is it depends. If you only ate one meal a day, but you ate bad foods, you still wouldn't burn much fat. You might lose some weight initially just because you're taking in fewer carbs than if you're eating all day long, but you wouldn't necessarily drop much fat because your insulin wouldn't drop because you were still eating poorly. But if you ate one meal a day and you ate properly, you had your proteins, had your fats, had your vegetables, you could lose a ton of body fat that way. So yes, the way in which humans evolved is we ate once every 5 to 8 days. A lot of people don't realize that. Once every 5 to 8 days, a human would eat. And when they did eat, we would eat between 6 to 10,000 calories at one time. So that was what you did when you were hunting and fishing. You got a kill, you got a fish, you got a prize, you got whatever. You ate a lot, and then you couldn't eat again. There was no refrigerators, there was no microwaves, there was no freezers, there was no pantries. It was fresh. You cooked it, you ate it, and that was it. So there's a lot to it. We didn't start eating more frequently until in the 1500s. We started eating once a day on average. By the 1700s, we started eating twice a day. We would break the fast. We'd have breakfast and then supper or a dinner. It wasn't until the 1900s we started eating 3 times a day. And now most people I know eat about every 10 minutes. They're constantly eating. And the body is not made to do that. And that's why we have so many problems. You can go longer than 10 minutes between eating.
Wow.
Exactly. There again, the reality is that I think part of the I guess the power that you have, as opposed to what's actually happening right now, is marketing, TV, press, commercials, even our internet, where so many people have the quote unquote plan to get you right, but it's not either one. It's not the whole truth, or it's not the truth at all, right? So they're telling you things based on your ignorance, as opposed to what it actually is. And as a doctor, you have a Hippocratic oath for us to kind of I hope be honest with us. But the things that you've told, the things that you've said, from what I've heard, and again, I apologize for being late. Sound like the things that people I respect have told me about it. And they're like, yeah, man, we only ate once a day, and we'd rock like 80 miles somewhere to do something, do this, do that, come back, and then we'd eat again. And that's, there's some logistical reasons behind that as well. But that said, I'm glad at least I'm walking towards the right, and I try to get my protein and my salad. I got to get some better salad dressing now. So
I got some salad dressing.
I know you do. Yeah, I'll just go in there and order
Origin Keto. Yeah,
$39. I got it. I just got to call the boss.
The 2 bottles.
That's 2 bottles. Yeah, that's the only way the boss is going to sign off on that transaction, is if it's worth the money. So I just have to, get that with the boss and see what she says. But with that said, I will make sure, sir, to get that in, because I think that's probably the last piece of the pie. Because I don't really have a problem with doing it that way. And it makes things easier for me during the day, because I get so busy I forget to eat anyway, and my wife gets upset with me. So,
You can forget to eat, but when you do eat, eat right foods. It's all about the selection. So if you were to ask me in terms of, is it your food selection? Is it the time that you eat, or is it your serving size? By far and away, it's what you're eating.
Yes, sir.
In 30 years, I have never seen anybody gain fat because they just had too much chicken and asparagus. I have never seen such a thing, right? Nobody had that problem. They had the problem because they were eating things they shouldn't have been eating, things high in carbs, high in sugars, like we talked about. That's what's going to cause that insulin problem, and you'll never be anywhere near ketosis then.
Can I ask you one more question? This is
Sure.
really important, because this is something that I think we have to touch on a wee bit, because I know it's important. Drinking, and I'm not talking about alcohol. I'm talking about juice, shakes, all those things that, like, your soul protein powders and shakes and all the rest of this stuff that folks are ingesting. What's your take? Orange juice, what's your take on these items? Are they in the good column or the bad column, or is it kind of nebulous?
Well, I'm a big fan of drinking nothing but water. We don't need anything biologically other than water. Now, I do sell a grass-fed protein, but I would say I'm using that as a meal, though. So if I'm having a protein shake, I'm considering that as maybe a breakfast or maybe a lunch. I'm not having it as a beverage. For a beverage, you can get into a lot of trouble with orange juice and apple juice and cranberry and even cow's milk you could get in trouble with. The body's not designed to take those in. Those were all designed as fillers when the food was hard to come by. It's not hard to come by anymore. We can go to a grocery store. You don't need to eat bad calories. So don't drink your calories and you're going to be better off.
Empty calories.
Empty. Totally empty.
As I've been told. What was the inspiration behind Strength to Genesis?
I wanted to put out the best foods I could find from the whole world. So I have a New Zealand grass-fed protein, right? So New Zealand has the highest standards of protein. So we wanted the cleanest protein we could find. It was New Zealand. We wanted the world's healthiest cooking oil. So we have Australian cold-pressed macadamia nut oil. It's better than even cooking with olive oil because it holds up at an even higher temperature. So the temperature is 515 degrees for this, whereas olive oil is 350 degrees. I wanted to make a salad dressing with 100% EVOO, no preservatives, no soybean oil, no canola oil. So the basis around it was really twofold. The highest quality ingredients that we could find. And then secondly, if you look at the supplement industry, the one thing that is obnoxious and hazardous and dangerous that not enough people are talking about is they package everything in plastic. All the protein tubs, all of the pills, all of the capsules, all of the supplements in the vitamin shop and the GNCs, and all, it's all plastic. You don't need more plastic in your body. Plastic is a petroleum byproduct. Microplasticity is terrible for your brain. It's awful for your estrogen levels. It'll make dropping body fat more challenging. It'll increase your cancer risk. You don't want it in your body. And then lastly, it's not good for the environment either. So for all of those reasons, we wanted to package sustainably. And to this point, we're the only sustainable supplement company that packages everything in glass, in metal, or paper to avoid plastic. And that's what Strength Genesis is.
Man, you sound like my old man here, because he's always be, hey, don't warm that up on that plastic food on that plastic plate. Hey, Dad, you're going to be watching. I get it. The doctor has said it, so I got
plastic. Eliminate plastic. Lower your. Think about everybody that has water bottles that are walking around. They're drinking out of plastic nonstop. We're taking in way too much plastic.
That's wow. Gotcha. Hey, y'all heard it right here. No more plastic. No more plastic. What's your core message? You've been on TV a lot, Doc. What would be your core message that would you say to us right now about people trying to get fit and get right now?
Anyone can get in better shape. Anybody can improve. You must start with the decision to do it. You must take ownership of it, knowing that you hold all the cards. You call the shots. And then lastly, as I mentioned a couple times, believe in yourself. I know when I say that, I sound like your first grade teacher. They try to teach us you got to believe in yourself. You could do well in school. You could do well in life. But so many adults that I meet with, even educated adults, even more affluent, well-to-do adults, do not believe that they stand a chance. They think, oh no, the marketing is too strong. The social pressures are too strong. My friends all want to drink and they all want to eat poorly. Listen, you are more capable than you know. Have belief and faith in yourself because you can improve once you decide and you believe in yourself to do so.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Wow.
Just believe.
Yeah, that you
If you
can do
want
it.
it enough, yeah. If you want it enough, like, that's always my thing. People talk. You gotta say, okay, well, okay. You said it. It's up to what you do.
And take some action.
Yeah. And it only takes one meal at a time. And that's kind of the way I do it, is one day at a time. Like, I eat, and then I tell myself I'm not eating anything else. And then here comes the water. You just start, boom, 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 drinking. My only problem is that I like ice water. And my wife says, don't drink cold water, drink warm water or room temperature water. I guess because I was an athlete, I always craved very cold water. Now I didn't always get very cold water, but I craved very cold water.
Well, there's evidence that if you're drinking cold water, you're burning even a few more calories. So it's not all bad drinking cold water.
Yeah, I will have you call Rhonda and holler at the boss.
Sounds good.
Yeah, holler at the boss, and yeah, because she lost a lot of weight. So it's just everything. She knows so much now that I'm like, okay.
Before we end, Doc, I wanted to get into this real quick about the so you talk about sports and nutrition and athletes, and you work with the Sabres, and you work with some other professional sports team. Why is it today, with all the nutrition, with all the information, and it just looks like our athletes looks like they're getting more injured? Is it just a mirage? Is it just us, or is it that we just see everything all the time? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the injuries happen for a lot of reasons. I think number one is the fact that a lot of these guys were performing their whole life. Their bodies have been used a lot, even starting at the very small little league levels and then on up.
Yeah.
Number two is they have grown bigger, heavier, and stronger, and you're going to put more tension and torque on the joints. The harder they turn and cut and start and stop, and all of those things are just wear and tear. The majority of injuries happen non-contact. If you think about basketball, just the force of changing your direction. In football, putting your cleat in the ground.
Yeah.
It's so difficult on the joints when you weigh more and have all that muscle as torque against the joint, especially with overtraining. That can happen. So yes, we're trying to recover athletes better. We're trying to prevent things better, but yet still you have a bigger, stronger person moving, and I think that leads to a lot of injuries.
Yeah, I agree 100%. They that's why there was a big movement years ago. Like, listen, man, don't let your kids play tackle football until they get to be 12, 13 years old. Because, see, I started playing at 7. So to play from 7 to 20 is a long time getting hit, right? My son broke his tibia jumping when he was 12 playing basketball. He was so big at the time that he actually broke his leg from the force of him leaving the floor. Like, nobody hit him or anything. Because my wife thought somebody had knocked him down or something, but it was just the force of exploding from the ground. And when you train muscles too much and don't stretch enough, you're going to get a lot of these other injuries because a lot of guys don't stretch the right way or stretch enough, to really take care of themselves. I remember my son used to think when we were kids that if you train your calf muscles, you jump high. He learned when he got into college, the dudes that jump the highest stretch the best. Like, if you can kick your foot up to your head, you probably jump very, very high. So the stretch is what it is, not so much the how much muscle you have in your thighs, legs, and calves. So yeah, it's also education. And Doc, you guys are really, I think, doing a great job with teaching these young guys and maybe spearheading the way physical training is done for these kids, at least when they get into a structured program. It's a little high with the AAU. It's a little hard, with the AAU, the travel teams, and everything else, because a lot of those coaches don't know how to do that. right? They I got the biggest, strongest kids, and that's it. But they don't necessarily help them remain that way, right? Because they just want to win tournaments and stuff. So we definitely have that as, I guess, something that goes against what you're doing from the higher levels. Because in high schools, good high schools and colleges, there are a lot of guys that teach the kids how to do things the right way. So, but it's not everywhere.
Gotcha. Before we end up, what's the most underrated exercise a person can do for longevity?
Boy, it's so hard to break it down to just any one thing. There are so many things, and I do agree, DA, that squats are fantastic. Obviously, stretching is great too. I would say stretch after your workout. Don't stretch before like we used to do. You're better off stretching a muscle that's already warm. Anytime you're working your legs, anytime you're working your core, anytime you're working your back. I'm a big fan of working the muscles around the spine, because nobody that I've ever met has said my back is too strong. So I do recommend spinal work. I think that's important, but anything around the core I think is good to do.
Got you. You've heard it here, man. Thank you so much, Doc. This is Dr. Derek Alessi.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Guys, thanks for having me on. Enjoyed meeting both of you today. Had a lot of fun.
Doc, any books or anything that you got that you want to and I'll put your website up here that you want to plug here real quickly.
Yeah, go to strengthgenesis.com, strengthgenesis.com. And on there right now, we were talking about the salad dressing. I have a book to go with it called Lean Greens, and it's an ebook and downloadable for you for free at strengthgenesis.com.
Got you. So you can go to strengthgenesis.com. Did I have it up there? Let me just show the people real quick. No, that's not it. Is that it? Yes, I think that's it. Yep, strengthgenesis.com. There you go. Yep. So there's that, the sustainability, the shopping. You talked about the olive oil.
So does that protein there come in a glass, or is it protein? Paper or
aluminum. The protein comes in aluminum.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
And from a marketing perspective, it's probably cheaper for shipping. So cool.
Well, the can itself, I wish was cheaper.
Oh yeah, well, I mean the weight for me. Yeah. The can for you, no. Yeah.
The can is the real deal.
Gotcha. Ladies and gentlemen, he's Dr. Alessi again. Doctor, thank you so much, man. We appreciate you, man, so much. We appreciate you, man. So listen, we're going to get out of here. On behalf of myself, I'm Kevin O'Warren, your host and moderator for the DA, and for our special guest today, Dr. Derek Alessi. This is the Sports Chasers Podcast. Y'all be good. Y'all be great, man. We'll catch you the next time. Peace. Take care.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Sports Chasers Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms, and connect with us on all social media channels for exclusive content and updates. We'd also love for you to join the conversation, share your thoughts, and become part of the Sports Chasers community. And remember to tune in next time for some more real sports talk. Until then, stay frosty.